What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to tie a really simple elk hair caddis pattern that works really well all summer. This is probably one of my favorite dry flies to fish, and I tie it in two different variations. The one we're going to do today is just a tan with a ginger hackle, and then I also tie a green one with a grizzly hackle. But yeah, first thing we're going to do, dress the hook, and then we got to get our hackle feather and tie that right in right off the bat. Alright, so I've got my ginger hackle, and we're going to tie that in right at the end of the hook. This fly is super easy to tie, super quick, and you can fill your fly box with them really quick. So once we got that tied in, I'm going to use some of this super fine dry fly dubbing in a pale tan kind of color, almost like a sulfur, but we're just going to dub our thread with some of that really quickly. And you probably want about a 3-inch long dubbing noodle going on. But yeah, once you got that on there, you're just going to start wrapping forward, kind of building up a slightly tapered body as you go. And I'm going to put one more really small little fluff of dubbing on there. Yep, just keep building that up. Once you're satisfied with the body, oh, I knocked my vise. I'm gonna whip finish this so then I can use the rotary to put the hackle on. Alright. So now that we've got that whip finished, we can just grab our hackle and start spinning it. I like to make this a pretty thoroughly hackled fly. I think it makes them floaty. Not that they wouldn't be anyways because of the elk hair, but we're just going to wrap that forward, 7 or 8 wraps of your hackle. We're going to finish right about there and then tie that off with your thread. Just like that. And then we can go ahead and snip off the rest of our hackle feather. And this is what we got so far. Next step is a little clump of elk hair. So I got my clump of elk hair, about half the thickness of a pencil, and we're going to put it in the hair stacker real quick and get the tips all lined up so the wing looks really nice when we tie it in. Just give that a couple taps with your hair stacker, and that's really all it takes to line those tips up. I like to just pick out any of the tips that might not have stacked really nicely, so I'll just mess with that real quick. And that looks pretty good. Tips are lined up. So when you tie this in, you want the tips to be right over the very end of the hook. So we're just going to line that up really quick, pinch that with my other hand, and then with my thread I'm going to take 2 really loose wraps just to kind of get the thread set in place, and then on your third wrap you're going to twist and pull and cinch that down, and I give it a couple decent wraps there. I'm actually going to take the end of my whip finisher tool. I trapped a couple of the hackle fibers in those wraps, so I just want to pull those out, just like that. And yeah, we're just going to cinch this down really well, make sure it's super secure. And then when you cut off the ends, some guys cut these off before they tie it in. I like to cut it off after. You're going to take your scissors at the same angle of the eye of the hook, pull all those fibers up. I'm trying to get my hands out of the way so you can see. And just snip it right off like that. And yeah, that is pretty much exactly what it's supposed to look like. I'm going to tie a couple more wraps down going back, kind of folding that elk hair down a little bit. We have a couple wild hairs. If you don't like the way that looks, you can literally just cut them off or pull them off like I just did. I'm going to go in there and clean this up. And yeah, for these, I always like to whip finish in front of the elk hair. I think it's way easier to do it that way, and it honestly makes a way more secure fly. So we're just going to sneak that thread up in there and grab our whip finisher tool. and finish her up. After I whip finish it, I'll always end up taking head cement and putting it on where the elk hair is tied in, and then also underneath where I whip finish it. These flies, in my experience, get a ton of strikes and a ton of action, so I really want to make sure that it's not going to, you know, get hit by a fish and fall apart. I'm going to tighten that down, then I'm going to do it one more time just because I know I'm going to be fishing these a lot and I want them to be really, really high quality. One more time around. And yeah, just grab your fly and really cinch that thread down. And then we're going to cut it off and add in some, oh, I missed the thread. There we go. We're going to add in some head cement. So I got my head cement. I'm going to take a really, really small little droplet here and then just run that right along the little pieces of thread that are on the top of the elk hair. Then I'm actually going to flip this over and do the same thing on the other side underneath, so it really secures everything and makes sure that you're going to be fishing with a fly that's not going to fall apart. It's an important step for these because all that elk hair is super fluffy. And yeah, once you're finished up with that, this is the end result. I think it ends up looking really nice. The wing floats super well, and yeah, this is a super popular pattern. I thought I'd show you guys how I tie mine. And yeah, thank you for watching.